All right, we're here at Royal Port Rush, one of the real pretty parts of the world. I'm with Shane Ryan from Golf Digest. Shane, like you and I have always enjoyed the Open Championship. I remember my first one was 2015 at St. Andrews.
Right.
That was your second
My
one.
second, yeah.
Tell me about the experience, especially early on in these Opens.
Well, I think it was just neat to be in the UK for the first part, and just to be there covering it, and the stuff that I used to watch on TV as a kid. You'd be so excited to wake up early in the morning with the time difference and see it, and there's such a romance attached to it, and as we're looking out here, the waving fescue. I mean, there's just the rolling terrain, the links stuff. There's just so much that's so special about the Open. So yeah, the first one I was at was Royal Liverpool in 2014.
Not a bad one. Rory McIlroy won that.
Rory McIlroy
Good
won.
matchup.
It was great. Yeah, he outdueled Sergio on Sunday, and yeah, it was just I think that sense of romance is the thing that I take the most, and it's always special to be here. Here we are a decade later, and I still get a kick out of it.
You referred to a sense of romance in the post-round interview with J.J. Spahn. Remember at the U.S. Open just a month ago, I actually texted you right after you asked the question because that's actually a really well thought out question. And so I'm curious, in the context of the Open Championship, what little moments have been kind of cool, little passing romantic moments that you've observed?
Yeah, so I think the moments I remember at the Open in 2015, which you were at too, Jordan Spieth, of course, was going for his third straight major, and I remember following him on Sunday, and he was really close, and he made this long putt at 16 to get himself, I think, either tied or very, very close to the lead, and everything seemed possible. I just remember the surroundings at St. Andrews and again, I keep going back to that word, the romance of this moment. It was so special. And, of course, he ended up not winning. It always sticks with me of just that journey with Spieth and, trying to accomplish golf history and win his third straight major that year was so great. And then over the years, thinking of different places I've been, even though it wasn't the most exciting final round, I do remember, the rainy day at Troon and the rainy day back at Hoylake and watching Brian Harmon win his Open Championship, and he had his rain suit on, and it just seemed like such a lonely venture for him. And, everybody was rooting against him because he was an American, and so just him battling the elements and being tough enough, a guy who had never won a major or really come close, being tough enough to do that, I thought was, fabulous to watch. And other things that come to mind last year, even just watching Xander Schauffele on the back nine, which I think is the best back nine performance at a major that I've ever seen. And so that was phenomenal too. So there's been a lot of those over the years. There's always something, and of course there's always little moments too that you take with you.
Yeah, well, speaking of little moments, I'm just thinking as you say all this, recall that I have is thinking about St. Andrews, and that there were some nights that we were leaving the media center and it was still bright outside, 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
You, me, Michael Collins were walking through Old Town of St. Andrews, and it just there's so many things to do. And to me, this is my favorite major because it's accessible and because of the people, the welcoming nature of the Scottish people, the Irish people out here, and sometimes the English people. So I'm just curious, what is it for you?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I always have this extra energy that is hard to explain. So you know how it is. You get here at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's still 3 a.m. back home. And the day goes by so fast, but it ends up being that 5 o'clock back home when people are still working and reading is 10 p.m. here. So sometimes you leave at 9 p.m. And normally at a major tournament or any tournament, after that long a day, 14 hours or whatever it is, you're like, man, I just want to go to sleep. But somehow it's still, at places like these, you're still thinking, yeah, I could go have a beer. I could go hang out a little bit, experience the town and things like that. It is the people. It's not better or worse, but it's a very different culture from the U.S. And the people are a little bit different. So that's always fascinating to interact with them and see how they, behave and see what life is like here. And then, of course, just at the majors, seeing people like you, seeing your friends, it's always special. So, yeah, all those things combine, I think, and being abroad to make the Open particularly special.
Well, when you said there's that little difference about the people, I can think of that night. Remember when Tom Watson, late at night, was finishing, it was really his last Open, right, at St. Andrews. I remember going to the Dunvegan Hotel, which the pub that all of us would go to in St. Andrews, and I remember asking the barkeep and all those people, like, what was it about Tom Watson and who he was, his career, that you guys love so much? They're like, you kidding me? There's conviction in these people. They know exactly what they believe, and they said, no fuss. Oh, Tom, no fuss. And that's what they just knew it. It was rolled off their tongue. And so that was my observation about the people so far too.
I think so. There's a lack of pretension, it seems sometimes, and again, I think you can go too far in stereotyping and saying like this is what Americans are like and this is what the Scottish are like. But it's just different. It's a little different and it's fun, and they're very welcoming people. Ireland's the same way. I've been to Ireland a bunch of times, even outside of the majors, and my dad loves it because he can go sit in a bar and strike up a conversation with anyone. So that's just kind of what it's like here. And there's especially when you get into some of the more remote areas, it feels like there's a simplicity about it that is really appealing, where you start daydreaming of, God, I could live here. I could have a great life here. It'd be simple. I'd be happy, like all this stuff. And so, yeah, it's just, there's just a romance to it that's hard to explain. And I mean, I don't know for sure, but you look Irish like me. So there's probably that sense of, this is where my people came from. And there's maybe something there too.
Well, I'm just curious, as you look at the stars a week like this, all the writing you've been doing, what really jumps off the page to you? I know we're in Northern Ireland, so a lot of people would say Rory, Shane Lowry coming back, defending 6 years later. I mean, what is really compelling? What couple things really compel your attention?
Yeah, I think those two are top of the list for sure, especially Rory. Because he, obviously he won the Masters, and then he had this strange period for a couple months after where it seemed like he was a little bit grumpy and wasn't maybe enjoying it the way you'd expect it to, which is interesting because you and I probably both heard Scotty yesterday talking about that theme of victory is not, when you do achieve these great things, it doesn't always feel like it should feel. It's not the thing that's going to satisfy you long term. And it's almost like we've been seeing that with Rory. But here he comes last week and plays really well at the Scottish. I think he finished, tied for second. And now he's at Portrush, where famously in 2019, I think he put a lot of pressure on himself. He had that terrible first day, and then he had the really interesting second day where he almost made the cut. But I think, he said himself, he's had this marked on his calendar for a long time, and I think it's really important to him. So seeing how he responds this time, where he said, I'm going to be more open, I'm going to be more receptive to my people, that's going to be really good. Lowry, of course, will be fun to see how he does. But then it's, things like I always just get a kick out of seeing, especially when the elements kick in, when you have wind and you have rain, how the Americans respond and who's good at this kind of thing. So Xander, we saw last year, he was absolutely up for it. He has every shot in the the repertoire that he needs. Scotty Scheffler played really well last year. I like seeing them respond to the challenges of a type of golf, links golf, that they don't grow up playing. And then on the flip side, like Bryson last year just had no clue what he was doing, and he admitted as much, and he struggled. And there's people that do that too. So I think I like seeing how the best Americans play and see like who's got the creativity and the sort of inventive style that can see them through and maybe have them win an Open.
It's fascinating when you think about those Americans, because so many Americans have won this championship. When we think of over the years, obviously Todd Hamilton, Ben Curtis, but I mean just Justin Leonard. I mean it just rolls off the page. I'm curious, when you look at Europeans, what beyond the two we mentioned, Lowry and McIlroy, when you look at somebody like Rose, do you look at Fleetwood? Like who really needs this major? Do you think?
Well, it's funny you asked that because I just did a story and a podcast on the curse of the English at the Open Championship.
Of course you did, yes.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I think 92 Faldo won. And since then, no English golfer has won. And there's been plenty of really good English golfers. Like right now, if you look in the top 100, there's 9 of them, which is second only to the U.S. They've had 3 world number ones, 4 if you count Faldo since 92, Westwood, Rose, Luke Donald. And they've come close. Like Lee Westwood in 2013 had the 2-shot lead after 54 holes. He lost to Phil that year at Muirfield. So the English keep coming close, but they keep not winning, and it's the longest drought they've ever had here. It is their home major. And so, yeah, the guys you mentioned, Fleetwood, Rose, Justin Rose, what an unbelievable sort of – a renaissance is probably the wrong word because he was never that bad, but just the way he's been playing at the majors lately, at the Masters this year, last year at Troon, he's been so good, and it feels like he kind of deserves another major. Deserves doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter, right? You still have to go win it.
It's like Clint Eastwood in that classic movie, right? Deserves ain't got nothing.
Ain't got nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's right. And so, but yeah, those guys, it would be cool to see an English player compete and kind of break that drought, Andy Murray style, winning Wimbledon, right? And yeah, other Europeans, I don't know. I mean, one funny thing, I was just talking with a Danish journalist. There's so many good Danish golfers now for such a small country. And
Højgaard brothers, right?
Højgaard brothers, Jacob Olesen, Rasmus Nergaard Pearson. I mean, there's a bunch of them, and they're all really good. So yeah, I mean, there's always great European stories, and then I think you and I probably both in the back of our minds at the 4th major, we're thinking about the Ryder Cup all the time. So all those narratives are playing out, and the European team looks so strong, but it's going to be in America, so that's all kind of fun too.
Is there a player that under the nerves of a Sunday you'd really like to see how they perform right now?
Yeah, Ludwig Oberg. He's somebody who, incredibly talented and so much fun to watch. And I like him a lot. And he seems like he's got a great personality. But we haven't quite – he's been there a few times. He hasn't quite cut the mustard. And it's not like he's out there choking or anything like that. But he hasn't really been in contention and shown us that sort of, I don't know, that finishing surge at these big, big tournaments. It was interesting to me at Scotland last week. He was right there, I think either in the lead or tied for the lead, then went bogey, triple, bogey on Saturday late. And there is just that slight sense of he does always seem to kind of subtly dip out of the lead if he's close to it. And I think he's going to win majors. And so I think I would love to see him. And then another guy, talking of Europeans, is Victor Hovland, who Luke Herdanine, my colleague, who is the swing doctor, the swing expert, said before the U.S. Open, he's like, this guy has figured it out. His coaches are bullish on him, and he had a great U.S. Open and just kind of had a bad Sunday like somebody did. But he was right there, and I think he's got a great chance to win as well. And then Rahm, if we're just throwing people out, I mean, Rahm, I kind of get the sense that Rahm's about to win another major, and he's sort of my pick this week. I mean, Scotty's always my pick because you'd be crazy not to pick Scotty every week, but I think Rahm's sort of the guy where I'm like, I think he's close. I think he's going to do it.
What has he done recently that's making you think that?
Well, so he had his little backdoor top 10 at the U.S. Open. Then at the PGA, he was close, and he just didn't quite. It was like he was just remembering what it's like to be nervous on a Sunday. Because remember, Scotty kind of dipped out a little bit in the front nine, and Rahm was either tied for the lead or just he got within a shot when it seemed like Scotty had this insurmountable lead. And then there was just a tale of two different back nines. Scotty stepped up and made his birdies and was the champion, and Rahm kind of floundered a little bit. But, as with Koepka, as with Bryson, after they went to live, before they won their major, they had to get close one time. Right? Koepka got close in the Masters against Rahm. Bryson with at the PGA with Xander before he won at Pinehurst. So it kind of feels like that with Rahm. Like he had his close call, and they played well at Oakmont, which is a tough course, and it feels like this is kind of the end of that little narrative trajectory. Now you win. Now you go win at Portrush.
Yeah. Well, it should be a fun week. Shane, always appreciate the time, and enjoy the rest of your trip here to Ireland.
Yeah, thank you very much, Garrett. Appreciate it.